friends, time to build the Coyote motor for my 1968 Ford Mustang fastback. Let's get right to it. We're finally building of the Coyote. Of course, it's already built, Wayne built. Got this special Coyote here for the fastback. Edwin and I from Top Notch Performance, which they've been helping out tremendously throughout this full entire build, as well as the Corvette. So make sure to check them out. Edwin and I, mostly Edwin, he's the genius and the brains when it comes to all this stuff, is gonna show you how to build an engine. So let's take a look at what we have, what we're going to do, and then we're just gonna start building, and then we'll see how far we could go. The plan today is at least to dress the motor, possibly transmission, and then get it into the car. So we'll see how that goes. Let's look at the motor and all the specs. We got the Coyote motor all dressed up here. Check out the previous video. I told you all the upgrades that we've done here to this motor. I'm not gonna go too much in depth, but we have a lot of stuff here laying around that we're gonna use to dress. We got the water pump, we got the oil filter, we have the pulleys, starter, whole bunch of stuff. And we have all the clutch, the bell housing, and the TKX transmission laid out here for the most part. Let's just get right into it. Edwin's gonna show us how to get this all buttoned up. Here's the current state of the fastback, completely all gutted out here. Also, I did explain everything in the last video if you guys wanna check out what we still need to do up to this point. Just a couple brake lines, hydraulic clutch. The brake pedal needs a little bit tweaking on because inside of here, we actually have the brake pedal all the way up to the steering wheel. But for the throttle and clutch, we should be a-okay. Besides that, as soon as we put in the motor and button everything back together, we just need S&P to come over, tune the car, and we should be good to go. Edwin's doing all the sensors back here, as you guys could see, putting the coolant temp crank position sensor. Edwin's also going to be taking out the studs because we have bolts and aftermarket long tube headers that we're going to be installing. I also got the exhaust and the X pipe all good to go. So we're going to be using the bolts that we originally had. So we just got to pop those out. That's what we'll do right now. All right, so now we got the motor on the cherry picker as well as on the stand here. So we need to put the oil pan first. Once we get the oil pan, we should be able to put the timing cover on. Once we put the timing cover on, valve covers come on, and that's pretty much dressing up the motor. Nothing much more to it. There might be a little things that we have to do. Actually, we have to swap out some ARP bolts that I see here, but besides that, we'll then put on the pulleys that we need, water pump, little accessories here and there, the VCT blockouts, and basically all that miscellaneous stuff. I'll go ahead and show you guys what we have here for the ride, so stay tuned. Let's go ahead and put on the oil pan next, which we're cleaning to make sure that there's no dirt, debris, nothing in there, but oil. So let's check that out. All right, the first thing we're gonna be doing is equipping the oil pickup tube. This is essentially the tube that picks up all the oil from the bottom of your oil pan and puts it through the motor, gets it through the oil pump gears and spreads throughout the full entire engine. So, and also we have to install the oil pan gasket first in order to put on the oil pickup tube. Once that is all on, then the oil pan gets on. So
look, a good thing about these gaskets is awesome is that these two tabs right here are front facing. They have to face up. Okay. In any Coyote, you'll see it on the Gen 2s and 3s. It's even bigger. These tabs are bigger. Those tabs do is they hold your timing cover. So when you slide your timing cover in, that's what's going to hold it from falling out in the front. Gotcha. As you bolt it in. So there's no wrong way of doing it. Just look for those tabs facing up and in. So
cool. All right. So you install the gasket. We'll have Edwin get this on here.
The O-ring's already flat. Just replace it if you're doing a brand new or a refresh build. Just hand tighten this one for now, and then you're gonna go towards the front
and put on these guys right here. Cool.
There's a little hole down here. I didn't even show you.
Yeah, right there.
And the pickup would just go through right around here, just so you can kind of get it over it, and then you just go back a little bit.
So technically, you could run pretty low on oil on this thing, huh? Yeah. Pick it up.
perfect. So the oil pan bolts, you're gonna want to do them kind of like if you're doing your lug nuts on your cars in a star, like in a star pattern in a way, even though it's not a star. And they're 8 foot-pounds, and once you get them to 8 foot-pounds, you have to do an additional 45 degrees after that. Gotcha. And that's according to Ford OEM spec.
Nice. Got the timing cover all gasket up front as well as the back, as you guys can see here. Brand new timing chain. This one is going to be with the Mustang, so no more F-150. And timing cover up this beautiful MMR red. Probably, hopefully never see it again. That's the full point, but man, this is gonna be looking really good.
4 contact points of silicone that you need to put, and it's mainly where the heads go. So the heads where they meet, you want to put a dab of silicone right there, so it covers that little gap right there. Yeah. The same thing right here in that little gap, and then on the bottom, it's just where the heads meet. So you'll see the blocks right here, and the heads meet right here. These 2 points and these 2 points. Later on, once we're done with that, you can put a dab of silicone up here on the top, and on the top, that's just to marry the gaskets for the valve covers. You'll see that when we do that later. Cool. You also have these points right here where the gasket is. It's still fresh. And then, like I said before earlier, the little teeth, that's where the valve cover will go. Nice.
So essentially where any of the pieces, like the heads, meet, you want to make sure you have some type of silicone, just like that, just a little dab.
Nothing
and so that there's no oil leaks or anything like that. Make sure we have a nice seal. So
just put it back on. Those teeth right there at the bottom is what holds the timing cover back. Just gotta get it past those 2 little points. 1, 2. There we go. That's what holds it back.
That just clicked right in. All right.
Yeah. So you just, and then the rest of it obviously gets pressed together.
Yeah, by the bolts will get all
the
together.
Rest of the bolts.
Cool. Just got the front timing cover all buttoned up. So now let's go ahead and get the top. She looks pretty though. You can still see the red a little bit on the top. But got the valve covers, gonna put them right on.
So on these, typically a lot of people just put them back, but if you really focus on this area right here, it has a little tiny hole, and these holes are meant for a purpose. You see this little piece that's sticking out right there on both ends? That's where that's supposed to seat in. Normally you're supposed to put a dab of RTV around it, and then that's where it seats in, and then it makes a perfect seal, so that way you have no leaks against any of the mating surfaces. So yeah, that would be the one where how we did it before on the RTV for the timing cover. Now we're doing it for the top part.
There you have it, these little things, which I have no idea if you guys could see right there. That is where you place the valve cover right there. So nice, we'll go ahead and put them on. Got the valve covers on, front timing cover. Now we're gonna get the water pump right on. So let's get that installed.
There's a nice little trick to these water pumps. You want to lube around that O-ring, because if you were to put it on with it and it pinches it, you're gonna end up doing your whole cooling system all over again. Yeah. Just because you have to take this out. And when you take this out, it drains the whole engine.
Yep. I remember that. While we wait for the water pump bolts, we also have the water pump. This is the, I don't know if this makes any difference, but this one's from MMR. They said it like loosens the
rotation mass.
Yeah, rotation mass, because it's like lightweight. So
30% more.
30%. So I got this installed. I don't know if it's going to add more horsepower, but it looks pretty. Got that all set up. Time for the harmonic balancer. This one's a little bit tricky, but Edwin has a tool to get it on. It's always important to get these installed the correct way.
Yeah, this is actually called an installer. Yeah. So this one is a snap-on product, which is Blue Point, the same thing. You don't have to go this fancy. They have them. You can rent these out at O'Reilly's, AutoZone, any store. You just pay the money, and then they'll give it to you. You give it right back. This one has a big, long extension bolt, and it also has this little thing will drive it in for you without having to ruin the threads, and it'll drive it in evenly. There's people that will hammer it in,
hammer that sucker
and mess up the crank, and when you'll have a problem, or the harmonic balancer will go in improperly and it'll wobble, and that's where you get failures later down the line. That's the only way you use. There you go. That's it. Cool. All the way in.
Yeah, and that's just rotating the motor.
Yeah, but there we go. That's it. Cool. She said you just loosen it up.
We got it on. We will torque it when the motor's inside, just because right now you can't really torque it with a motor like this. So we got it on though, for the most part. Here the next day, installing transmission. Full day here today. We got Edwin buttoning up the TKX transmission with the QuickTime bell housing. And fun fact, if you guys want to do Coyote swaps on classic Mustangs, one of the only transmissions that fit without having to cut the firewall, which I also have this conversion in the future. I do want to swap out the transmission eventually, get this installed to the mid-rail right here so that we have more room for transmission. However, if you don't want to spend an extra 500 bucks, probably another welding fabrication time inside the car as well, you could go with a TKX transmission and a quick time bell housing. Bell housing is going to be the most important thing because that stays away from the firewall as much as possible. And the TKX transmission is so tiny. Look at that thing. One of the smallest transmissions I've ever seen, but this is also good up to 600 foot-pounds of torque. So this thing is small, but it packs a punch. So I got the Ram hydraulic clutch here to complete the TKX and the quick time bell housing. The thing with these hydraulic clutches, which there's other clutches that you could go with, but hydraulic is probably the most popular. You do have to measure it out so that the hydraulic clutch is able to engage as well as disengage the clutch. So Edwin did the calculations according to Ram's spec, and essentially with the shims that we have available, it's be around the 200,000 mark, and we got it right on the mark. So now we have the Ram hydraulic clutch going to be able to work with the Vengeance dual clutch that we have here, so everything works seamlessly with the 5-speed transmission. The math wizard Edwin figured it out here from Ram clutches. So since this is not an ordinary swap that everybody does, and essentially there are shims right behind that clutch.
This will determine whether you ride the clutch or you don't ride the clutch.
Yeah, Edwin already finished the pedal assembly within it, so now with this there are some lines that we have, as you guys can see there. We'll do that once when the transmission's in the car. So now that we have that, we're going to continue on to the flywheel. All right, so we got the dust shield on. That's going to be the first component that we have throughout this driveline. Edwin's getting the flywheel all torqued to spec. Guys, if you're in Southern California, you need a clutch job, you need to do any type of projects, this is the man to do it. His expertise, his knowledge, his work speaks for itself. Hit up Top Notch Performance. Instagram will be linked down in the description. Get work done by him anywhere in LA is where he's at. Hit up the boy. Tell us what we got here, Edwin.
On these, majority of all the clutches, they'll tell you exactly what it is. Like, so this says trans side. This is the trans side of the engine disc. This is since it's a twin disc, you'll have two of them, and they'll both be labeled. They'll tell you which one is closer to the engine. So for this example, the engine disc is this one. It'll say trans side, which is this way, engine disc. Nice. And then on the second one, it'll say trans side, which faces towards the tran, and then trans disc. So this is the one that's closest to the disc. Trans, correction.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's normally how you would do it. You would have a pilot bearing tool like that. Typically, you would just set up the whole system like that and then drive it all together. There's a little input shaft right there that goes into your bearing, and you would kind of put it all together like that once it's all together.
Okay. Finishing up the clutch here, 26 foot-pounds on the Vengeance dual clutch here, and then that concludes it, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Put it all the transmission back together.
And we get this thing in. While we finish, gotta love these Willwood disc brakes that we have here with the QA1 suspension and the Rod & Customs full front end suspension. This thing is looking sweet. Can't wait for the wheels to get on as well. I love the setup that we have here. All right, so the full clutch flywheel assembly is on the Coyote, and we don't have a transmission jack. So the goal is to connect the transmission, which Edwin and I are just gonna try slipping it in there. Once when it's on there, we're gonna put it as a full unit, very much how we did on the first time. And so wish us luck, because we're going to try our best to get this transmission. It's not too bad. TKX is pretty small, but it is heavy. And if we could get it on, we should be looking solid. So I'm gonna sit you guys right here, and you guys are gonna see us try putting this TKX on the Coyote. So let's get it. Our plan B, we could not do it ourselves. This is a weird angle. So we got a third hand here gonna help us out. We got cherry picker gonna essentially strap the transmission so that we're not breaking our backs trying to get this installed. Hopefully plan B works. Usually plan B always works. Transmission is in. The third arm helped out a lot. It went in really quick, as you guys saw there. Now, go ahead and bolt up the rest of the bell housing that you see here. It's all put together. We got the motor all set up here with the fastback finally finished the full entire motor. We still have some little things to do here and there. We're gonna do the rest once when the motor is actually inside the engine bay. But check this out. We got this sitting up all pretty on the jack. Now the next step is to get this into here, which we're gonna try doing very shortly. So I'm gonna go ahead and sit you in. Huge shout out to Edwin. Top-notch performance again. Anybody in the Southern California, LA area. You guys do all cars, right?
Yeah, basically.
All cars here. Let's get this engine into this engine bay, right? Motor's finally in here, all the way with the motor mounts. We just got to strap up the transmission mount down below, but she's back in. Time to tidy her up. Now that's gonna be in another video, but I'm super excited. We finally got the Coyote back into the fastback where it belongs. We finally got it, Edwin and I. Mostly Edwin, man. This guy is a mastermind when it comes to these Coyotes Classic. I would not be at this stage without them. So huge shout out to Edwin. We are gonna be doing the rest of the full Coyote in the near couple days. So hopefully I could get this thing up and running. We're gonna get SMP to come and tune the car. We'll get it running, driving. We do have some brakes, clutch assembly, all that stuff we're gonna go and show you. So we got her in. I'm super excited. Now we're gonna fire her up very, very shortly. Stay tuned for the next one. Make sure to give a big thumbs up, subscribe down below. We're out of here.